A man heard that Mr. Swordy is the best swordsman in the world. He fly, but he no fuck. Someone more creative than me should redo this, but the thing each swordsman chops in half is smaller and smaller, until they visited every swordsman in the village but one. That last one announces that he is indeed Mr. Swordy, and he is asked to prove it. He slices at an object so small it's invisible to the naked eye, and the village explodes. My favorite version of this joke. Good old 312 but less creative. Paragraphs please, brevity being the soul of wit. The version I heard was that the mosquito flew straight to a tree and banged his head repeatedly, trying to commit suicide. Seems that life was not worth living anymore because his pee-pee was cut off. This read like some terrible AI wrote it and tried to include mistakes to appear more human. First heard this joke in 1998 at my college, laugh then and not laughing now. A military salute is a state-sanctioned gang sign. Very true. The US military is the biggest, toughest, best-funded gang in the world. Some of y'all are in the shower too fucking long. It's a sign of respect. Evolved from the raising of visors between two knights. Of course, gang culture is heavily influenced by military culture. Real gang's power structure even has titles. Captains and lieutenants. Sonny Barger, the founder of the Hells Angels, was an Army veteran when he structured the club. He even said in his autobiography that one of the things that would help a recruit get in was military experience. You're on the right path, buddy. The state is a criminal organization. And the military is a gang. The US government is the largest gang in the world. The military are their goons. The salute came from old times when knights had to lift up their face shield to show the other person you're not an enemy. Have questions about the COP28 climate talks in Dubai? We're Akshat Reddy, Laura Milan and Kokolu from the Bloomberg News team. Ask us anything. What's your take on a climate summit taking place in a country such as the UAE, with a poor record on human rights and limited freedoms? Can its compromise on climate change be taken at face value beyond a PR stunt? Why should anyone take this conference seriously after hearing what Sultan Al Jaber has had to say? Is there someone even remotely interested how stupid it looks to make a climate conference in Dubai between all of the other places in the world? How many private jets were at the airport? What is the environmental impact, particularly in terms of emissions, of the COP? Hot water when washing dishes feels cleaner, but hot water when washing our teeth feels wrong. Dentist actually told me I'd probably be less hurt when brushing my teeth if I used warm water instead of cold, or room was right. I use hot water when brushing my teeth. So many people freak out about using warm tap water for boiling cooking. Yet here we have a bunch of people gargling with the same apparently bacteria and metal contaminated water in a different room. Wait. People use cold water? I brush my teeth in the shower, so I don't agree at all. This sub has really gone downhill. You don't use warm water when brushing teeth? I have to wet my toothbrush with warm hot water, then put toothpaste on and then use warm hot water on the toothpaste before it enters. My only acceptable time to use cold water for brushing your teeth is when you don't have hot water in your tap or when you don't have a tap at all. Gargling with boiling water definitely not recommended. I am the president of West Coast Trial Lawyers, leading a team of 21 attorneys who have taken on major corporations including Walmart, FedEx, and JP Morgan. Here to respond to any true crime, personal injury, employment, criminal trial, Trump-related questions. AMA, what's the stupidest thing that you've ever seen a lawyer do or say in? What's your favorite dinosaur? Thoughts on the Bad Bunny AI song? Does he have a right to sue? Pros and cons of being a federal prosecutor? I've read that discovery materials can sometimes contain millions of pages of documents. How do lawyers sift through all that? Can we get a class action lawsuit going against Trump? What's your take on Jeffrey Feiger? I just came across my wife's Tinder profile and I'm so angry about her lies. Is she not 5 feet 7 inches either? She doesn't like piña coladas neither. Yes she is. I would imagine plenty have come across her profile. I came across her profile as well. My lord, what a mess. Had to get a new phone. Athletic build? I mean, I suppose bowling is a sport. Yeah, it sucks when you find out she swallows. Just not for you. Whoa, nice. That one got me. Smiley face. So, why were you on Tinder? I hope you sanitized the phone after you came across her profile. I'm sorry to hear that. Now you should make a Tinder. Embarrassed smiley face. I never came so hard. Lol, this made me laugh. Smiley face. Did you try joining to see if you were a match? Smiley face. More to the point, did you match with her? I just learned that someone in Chicago gets stabbed every 2 minutes. I'd move to another city if I were him. Yeah, the other day, I went to the doctor and had broken my leg in 4 places. I said, "Doc, what am I gonna do?" He replied, "Well, first off, don't go back to those 4 places." I started carrying a knife after an attempted mugging few years ago. Since then, My mugging attempts have been a lot more successful. Well, as the old saying goes, come to Chicago for the food, stay because you got murdered. Don't take away my knife rights. He should move to Atlanta. There, he'll only be stabbed every 7.5 minutes. A guy just got stabbed a couple of seconds ago. So I'm safe for another 1 minute 58 seconds. And they used to call Limerick Stab City. I met a guy who has an orgasm every time he sneezes. You can hear him coming. Lol, what do you give a lady with the same problem? A cold. I have an orgasm every time I figure something out. I just came to this conclusion. You'd never want to sit where he's been. Ah, the sticky chair, not to mention his shorts. A chuog, fuck yes, I'm that guy. Bless him. Joke aside, every time I get horny I need to sneeze. Comb Sundheit. There's a whole organization on men who moan. Shit's hilarious. Alternate punchline, he squirts at you. Sorry I didn't get the joke, explain Plaza. I still refuse to say bless you to people. Pretty sure traditions we did hundreds of years ago when we barely had any grasp on modern science can be cast aside now. It looks like you took some pills. Thank you, please come again. Brothers life stuff. Mucinex who? That's a superpower, where do I apply for one? I'm a casino dealer. How often are you screaming in your head, just walk away from the table? And what was the worst loss you've ever seen someone take? I was in casino surveillance. We are looking for your mistakes as well as making sure you are honest. How conscious are you that every move you make is being recorded and sometimes watched live? I've always thought poker was the best game for numerous reasons, one being that we are competing against each other rather than the house. Does that hold true to you? Do you ever secretly root for the player? Secretly hope that you gamble yourself assuming at a different location? What's your favorite game if else, besides showing your hands are empty? Does clapping them do 1x change? The hell do you do the math so quick on some odd bet wins, with bonus bets involved as well? What's the craziest thing you've ever seen while dealing? Your own definition of crazy. I'm going to open a sperm bank, that'll keep him coming. I have sticky fingers, may have to steal this name. The donor application policy is slightly rigorous, but after initial approval they're welcome to come again anytime. That name blows. I don't trust banks. I keep mine in a sock at home. Is there a penalty for early withdrawal? Technically a dad joke. Everybody comes and comes again. I'm going to call mine, Who's Your Daddy? I hope I get high interest of my bank deposits. Nah. Ain't happening. Lamau, I laughed way too hard at this. The sperm bank robber took a load and something in the bag exploded. It was a sticky situation. Should come in handy. Yo, that made me laugh. If someone robs it, is it a stick up? Every day you can see men going into the sperm bank. Comb one. Come all. A specialty bank for C men. I was gonna open a sperm bank for gay guys. It's called backdoor deposits. I'm only 12.5 sure that God exists. Quality. It hurts. Just like a good dad joke has to it. Okay, I'm putting that on FB. Schult it be 87.5 as then you're 1/8 not believing of God's being? I'm kinda curious about the math behind this. Haha. I'm 100 sure that God exists, but I guess it's always nice to be extra sure. How devilishly clever of you to recognize the joke. I know this is dad's jokes though, so I'm sure it was intentional. I don't believe it. That is a deep question. I can't definitively answer it, but no one can really be sure anything exists beyond the physical or tangible. You are going to 773H for this. My daughter asked me, Dad, what do bees eat? You gotta comb through a load of dad jokes to find one that generates this much buzz. Do you have to drone on and on? Bees nuts, boobies, probably something with a lot of vitamin B. Inquisitive children, just don't drone on about this. It really stings not knowing the answer. You bumbled through that answer. This one stings. Milk. No wait. That might be what boobies make. I give that a solid B, maybe even a B. My friend keeps saying cheer up man, it could be worse. You could be stuck underground in a hole full of water. Oh, you artesian. That's a pretty deep thought. Just don't kick the bucket into the well. That's deep, man. Throw spare change at him and make a wish. Well, that would be worse. I am rather curious as to how well your friend knows the experience. I would think they had previously been immersed. My son asked if he should upgrade his home surround sound system to Sony since everyone says they're the best. Boy, you didn't really skip any beats there. You totally boasted him. Upgrading to Sony isn't a bad idea. It's just not Sharp. I said Sony, go ahead. That's sound advice. If he upgrades to a Sharp, be careful of jagged edges. Sony might sound supersonic, but that's not as good as Panasonic. I'm going to steal and boil it down to told me Sony is the best sound system, but that's just a stereotype. Some people laughed at every joke, but for me, no pun intended. No, Sony is better one. This joke sets a whole new paradigm. Samsung. Pioneering dad joke. Be realistic. Only bozos can afford Sony. And it's a pyramid scheme, if the stuff I hear isn't baseless. No one on Star Trek ever had to die permanently. Or alternatively, people are dying every time their molecules are torn apart in a transporter and it's just a clone of them that emerges from the other side. The transporters are terrifying. They're effectively a suicide booth, and a clone of you steps out the other end. If there's some sort of power fluctuation or something goes wrong? Oops, no clone, or only part of a clone, or your clone is merged with someone else. Or maybe you end up with two Rikers running around. And no one bats an eye at any of this. It's insane. Like, there are two William T. Rikers in Starfleet thanks to a transporter accident and no one cares. People who sleep 9 hours a day have 1/12 less of their conscious life than people who sleep 7 hours. Both of these are in the sleeping norm. Take a look at the life of these people and then decide if this is a curse or a blessing. You assume I want to be awake and conscious. Yeah, I wish I was one of those super sleepers who need like 4-6 hours or whatever. Unfortunately I need 8 or else my life is a mess. If we're talking about quality of life, I'll take more sleep please. It's not wasted time. Sleep is worth doing. Sleep makes you live longer though, and more sleep is better quality of life in those hours. People who sleep 9 hours have 15-hour days. People that sleep 7 hours have 17-hour days. That's 217 less life, not 112 less life. You're off by 217, 112, 217, about 29. Politicians, don't be ridiculous. A real politician would just have the hospital shut down for providing subpar service. A politician visited a village and asked what their needs were. It has been a while since I laughed this hard. Every respectable politician will have a sad phone. This is a good joke, Lamau. Cold busted. LOL perfect. So a man goes to his local priest and says to him, "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned." You see the punchline coming from miles away, and yet when it does, we get this joke every week. It's a classic. But I'd make the putt a foot or two instead of a couple of inches. It's virtually impossible to miss a 2-inch putt. But a 1-footer, you actually have to think about for a second. You make almost all of them, but a miss is not out of the question and would certainly be swear-worthy under the circumstances. It rings more true. He's also wrong with that opening line. Supposed to be bless me, not forgive me. Like these idiots have never been to confession and it shows. A classic. 57. Still, according to a 2019 survey on 4,500 Americans, the average age that children stop believing in Santa Claus is 8.4 years. The oldest average comes from the state of Mississippi at 10.2 years. Because it's 7, it's marginal, right? I stopped believing when I was 13 according to my parents. I knew he wasn't real at 6 years old. My parents just put so much effort into it and really sold Christmas every year and I didn't want it to stop. The Christmas spirit really died afterwards too. Less decorations, less activities, less presents. 21 of US adults said they still believe in Santa Claus, according to a poll by is about to write to Santa begging him to pay off their crippling debt. Don't forget to include your address. Source: Till Van Gogh's sister-in-law was behind Van Gogh's posthumous success and fame. She dedicated her life to spreading his art and legacy after his death. She preserved and published his letters, organized and exhibited his paintings, wrote and translated articles and books about him. This sort of thing always makes me wonder about the artists out there whose work never got famous, but who might have been just as amazing as Van Gogh. Can you imagine if Van Gogh were an obscure Dutch painter only hardcore art historians had heard about? Whoa. What a saint. I hadn't known about her until Till post I've read in a very long time. Thanks Sop. That's a long caption without actually mentioning her name. Neutral face. In case anyone hasn't seen it, Doctor Who did an episode with Van Gogh. It's absolutely beautiful. There's a museum website that displays his art and they have letters between him and Theo on there to read. It's quite beautiful. Till about Bob Jones University, a Christian university where students are only allowed to watch G-rated movies and rock music is banned. My mother went to Furman University, a fairly conservative at the time, Baptist affiliated but now secular university itself that is in the same town. She said that even in the 1970s the students there joked that the fence around Bob Jones University wasn't to keep other people out, it was to keep the students in. In 2014, BJU lifted this ban and allowed students to listen to any kind of music, as long as it did not contain profanity, vulgarity, or basically nothing changed. Lol. Liberty University has similar restrictions. I saw a list of them once that was both hilarious and super cringe. One of them was entering and crawling through the drop ceiling is prohibited. Which is oddly specific and sounds like something they had repeated incidents with to need a rule. Till about XD11, a severely disabled infant chimpanzee that exhibited Down syndrome-like symptoms and other congenital birth defects. Her mother and sister took care of her anyway and her social group did not reject her. She survived in the wild for 23 months. I volunteer in wildlife rehab and it's interesting to see this behavior across several species, although with other medical situations, not DS. It's simultaneously heartwarming and heartbreaking because the survival rate is so low, but it's so beautiful to see them accepted and cared for. There was another chimp with Down syndrome in Japan, and she made it to 27 in captivity. She was only diagnosed when she was around 20. I looked this up a week or two ago after reading a paper arguing against a diagnosis of Down syndrome in a Homo floresiensis specimen. Thought it was pretty interesting. When I saw XD11 I thought it was about another one of Ellen's kids. Till, an Oxford University physicist, claimed that for the moon landing conspiracy to be true, around 411,000 people would have needed to keep it secret. He also suggests the hoax would have broken down in 3.68 years. The USSR had the means and the motivation to monitor and verify the Apollo missions. If the moon landing was fake, the USSR would have exposed it as a propaganda stunt and a fraud. However, the USSR never challenged the US claim of landing on the moon, and even congratulated them on their achievement. If 3 Americans took part in a conspiracy, one would talk about it to the press, another would write a book about it, and maybe one would keep quiet. Of course it was faked. The problem is they hired Stanley Kubrick to film it, and he insisted on filming on location. My fave take on those dumb conspiracies. Mitchell and Webb moon landing sketch. Till, child prodigy Dragan de Mello's father planned for his son to get a PhD in physics by age 12, win the Nobel Prize by age 16, and then become a senator, a president, the head of a world government, and ultimately the chairman of an intergalactic government. The article said his father was a weightlifting champion and pushed his son like crazy to achieve high marks in school and attend college, though his professors acknowledged that his work was middling. The father lost custody of his son and the boy went back to junior high after graduating university. At the end of the article in 2000, de Mello was training to be an estimator for a commercial painting company. Wow, that was an interesting read. As it turns out, the kid was just a basic kid with a pushy father and he achieved none of these things, ever. Till, in 1972, astronaut Neil Armstrong visited the Scottish town of Langham, where he was read a 400-year-old law declaring any Armstrong that enters the town must be hanged. 400 years discriminating against Armstrongs? That's quite a stretch. After seeing the Earth from the moon, Neil Armstrong said it changed his perception of humanity. Before there were arbitrary divisions and strife, but afterwards he only saw one people, all losers who hadn't been on the moon ever. They're still friendlier than the aliens I met on the moon. I met a Scottish in-law for the first time and before I was allowed in the house I had to confirm I wasn't a Campbell. Neil laughed and laughed until the noose went around his neck. Don't leave me hanging. Was he hanged? Till, that Geert Wilders, who recently received the most votes in the Dutch election, was once deemed too dangerous to enter the United Kingdom. Narendra Modi, current Prime Minister of India, was once banned from entering USA as well. Modi was banned from US too. He looks like a Geert. To be fair, I think there's a subset of British people who would be considered too dangerous to enter the United Kingdom had they not been born there. Related. Trump's bid for Sydney Casino 30 years ago rejected due to mafia connections. That was back when fascism was less popular in the UK. Are his hands lethal weapons? He was deemed too dangerous because of fears his opposition to Islam would stir up violence from Muslims in the UK. Call me crazy, but when people are being restricted because of religious extremism, I think we have a problem. He still should be. He's a fascist bigot. Till, that Kenny Rogers was singing at a private event of a hedge fund manager and asked to repeat The Gamblers over and over, being offered additional paper song. After a dozen times and having earned $4 million, he refused to sing. Oof, wonder if the rich asshole actually wanted the song on loop or it was a let's see how much I see make my horror dance power trip. And he walked away from the table with $4, took his winnings and left. I can imagine some situation like in the movie Rat Race with some assholes betting when he's gonna give up. Gotta know when to walk away and know when to spelling. He knew when to walk away. Many would die for a chance to be humiliated like that with the money, of course. Dance monkey, sounds like they should have known when to hold them and when to fold them. Till, that in an unfortunate evolutionary coincidence the delta hexatoxins in Sydney funnel web spider venom are exceptionally dangerous to humans. A bite can kill a human in as little as 15 minutes. And this is why that Peppa Pig episode about spiders not being dangerous got banned in Australia. Isn't everything an unfortunate evolutionary coincidence? Grew up in Sydney and have a strong memory of the lesson at primary school about spiders and the teacher saying, now if a spider ever comes towards you, run away. Because you won't win that fight, ha ha ha. There was another post saying these terrifying things fangs can pierce leather and toenails. WTF? Nightmare fuel. Till that since 1953, a Italian regional bank called Credito Emiliano has accepted giant wheels of Parmigiano Reggiano cheese as collateral for small business loans. Besides holding the cheese's insurance, the bank stores and ages the wheels in climate-controlled vaults for the duration of the loan. One of my work colleagues lives in Italy. He loves telling the story of when the earthquake happened a number of years ago and a lot of the Parmigiano storage collapses. Opening up the cheese says that for a couple months afterwards all the restaurants had specials loaded with cheese, and all grocery stores sold broken wheels for basically nothing. He said it was a bad time to be cheese, a worse time to be wine, and an even worse time to be a bell. Fun fact: you can buy Parmigiano Reggiano wheels from Costco as well as the coffin you'll eventually need from overindulging in your Costco cheese wheel. Till that the cornfield in the beginning of Interstellar was planted specifically for the movie and sold for a profit. I remember watching a documentary about this. Apparently corn experts told them it wouldn't grow where they planted it, high up in Canada somewhere, but it ended up growing. Quiethead wrote in his script that the corn was gonna burn, but it turned out corn crops don't burn, so they put out gas tanks in the field to make it burn for the movie. Where are we gonna find a cornfield in this economy? Probably would have sold for more, but craft services kept stealing ears off the stalks to feed everybody on set. It was nothing but corn for months. Farming? A director of your talents? They missed an opportunity to make the corn into popcorn to eat while watching Interstellar. Not as impressive as the rats in Indiana Jones 3. 2,000 rats were bred specifically for the film so that they could be sure the animals would be disease-free and docile. Didn't the cornfield from Signs do the same thing? The first person to die on Mars is gonna have so many things named after them, like a street, a school, and even a city. Counterpoint: Mark Watney. He would be surrounded with conspiracy theories, just like the mysterious cosmonauts before Gagarin. Those who flew into space, but never returned. The second person to die gets a set of steak. Third person to die? You're fired. Probably the crater their spaceship created. Counterpoint: Mark Watney is going to get things named after him even though he survived. Certainly the patch of Mars where he asphyxiates will be. Or just a rock. A big, red, Martian rock. Mars isn't even real. Yeah, but you can name a star right now. Would you go live on Mars? That depends. If they're sold as an astronaut, sure. But if there's some poor person that got conned into testing one of Elon Musk's shoddy tin cans, probably not. The person who invents a band-aid for the inside of the mouth is going to be a gazillionaire. Ain't the worst that where you bit yourself swells, causing you to by unfamiliarity bite it again and again and again. I'm Glow the fucking worst, man. Our mouths kind of already are. Make a band-aid. There's already healing spray for mucous membranes that do pretty much the same thing. Added, and also a gel apparently. Canker sore be gone PLS. Oh yes, solving those irritating mouth injuries could make someone incredibly rich. Maybe you're the only person who can invent one. Who knows? Right? I've been chewing the crud out of my lip cheeks lately. It hurts. There are no female cereal box characters. Despite what General Mills tells you, the Cheerio Bee is female. Has a stinger. Drones don't have stingers. There actually was one made just this year, a sixth member for the Halloween cereals. Wasn't Waffle Crisp a granny? It's a total breakfast sausage fest. I'm quite sure this bee mascot for Honey Loops Honey Pops is female. The bee has a female voice in all commercials, both in my native language as well as the UK commercials. Also, worker bees are always female. Yup, it's a girl. Old mascot was male, but replaced with a female bee. Her name is Honeybee Source. Little Debbie cereals exist. There was a Fruity Pebbles box a few months ago with Wilma and Betty on it. Trix the rabbit has no pants on and male. There's been one for 3 years now. Unlike most sports, volleyball is usually less entertaining the better the attackers are. Absolutely. Additionally to them killing the ball more often, you also need to serve better so that they don't get perfect sets. Which leads to more serve errors, which is the least fun you can have in volleyball. Same with tennis. Watching ace after ace is kinda boring. You want those long exchanges to generate excitement in the fight for every point. The most fun volleyball is with sustained volleys. I've played volleyball for 25 years, indoor and sand. I dread when sand season is over because all my friends go play indoor. I'm tall and can still jump high, so I'm very good at indoor. But lord is it boring. It's basically just serve. Bump, set, spike. It's either a kill or a block straight down. I'll play for 2 hours and never sweat. Sand volleyball is far superior. We're Brian Howie and Nate Rosenfield, reporters for Mississippi Today. Ask us anything about the Goon Squad, a loose band of Rankin County Sheriff's deputies who allegedly tortured residents for years. Additionally, how could someone without a journalism degree but a degree nonetheless get involved with work like this? Have you taken a look at how many people Christian Deadman has shot or how many officer-involved shootings he has been present for versus any other officer at a different agency? Because I think that could be interesting. Podcast coming? Could you all speak a little about the areas of Rankin that a lot of these incidents took place, and did anything about the locations in particular facilitate officers' ability to get away with unethical behavior? What consequences do you reasonably expect them to face for their actions? What consequences are you hoping for? We're three scientists who went from CERN to battling surveillance and Russian censorship at Proton. AMA, any plans to replace or get rid of Google's and Apple's push? Yesterday's news, it was reported that apps' push notifications are used to spy on users. Although, this should be no surprise. As a family plan subscriber, I am very happy with the evolution of Proton products this year. Mail, Calendar, Drive, Pass, now Photos. I still have a big tech cloud because it's still missing one major feature. Share Proton Drive directory with my family or other in edit mode, not read only. Create photo albums and share them. Do you have estimate date to deliver those features? What is a little bombshell your therapist dropped in one of your sessions that completely changed your outlook? Stop trying to get everyone to agree when you need everyone to agree. The least agreeable person has all the power. Really changed my outlook on planning family events. Don't think of the relationship as over. Think of it as complete. Fundamentally changed how I was processing a tough breakup. So helpful. At the time I was into getting tarot card readings and seeing psychics. My therapist told me he has psychic clients who come to him ashamed about the excessive amount of lying they do every day. Haven't been to a psychic or tarot card reader since. What is an old wives' tale that people still believe? An undercover cop has to tell you he's a cop if you ask him. Some people still believe cracking knuckles causes arthritis. You can tell the sex of the baby by how you carry. Chewing gum stays in your stomach for 7 years. That we only use 10 of our brain. Butter on burns. Going outside with wet hair will make you get pneumonia. Or an earache. Or maybe arthritis. Depends on which old wife you listen on them. I haven't blow dried my hair in decades and usually leave the house with wet hair in the morning. On winter mornings, the tips of my hair get frozen. No ear infections or pneumonia or arthritis yet. You can suck venom out of a snake bite. Carrots improve eyesight and night was propaganda spread by the British during World War II to hide the use of radar systems from the Germans. That MSG is bad for you. Pretty much anything gender related when it comes to predicting the gender of the child. What is the asbestos and lead paint of today that we'll look back on and say, why did we think that was a good idea? Fizz. Frequently putting your entire family's pictures and vids on the internet. It's relatively harmless now, but I can probably see that becoming a substantial resource for scammers. Plastics. They're poisoning us all. I'm going to say social media. There are studies being done already, but we won't know the full extent until we can study the same people when they are adults. I'm going to guess that the study will show this newest generation that has never had a world without social media will have significantly altered brain development, highly processed foods, and extremely sugary soft drinks. I can't imagine they're going away anytime soon, but they kill. What is the worst mistake a girl can make in the bedroom? Using a dirty microfiber cloth to clean the TV screen and scratching it. Smoke in the bed, fall asleep and set the bed on fire. Not getting approximately 8 hours of sleep a night. This isn't sexual, but if something was bothering her from earlier that day, instead of having a conversation about it for the last 4 hours we were hanging out, waiting until I'm exhausted, ready for sleep and in bed to have the conversation. So now I start to associate our bedroom as a place of conflict instead of intimacy and rest. Not being sure, not showing enthusiasm, saying pedal stool instead of pedestal. For the most part, I just say not being an equal participant. Probably also one of the bigger mistakes a guy can make. Let's just assume everything is consensual in this context, otherwise there's way bigger mistakes people can make. What pickup line actually worked? I don't quite think it's a pickup line, but sparking up a conversation and ending with something along the lines of, "Hey, I gotta go, but you seem really cool. Would you want to instead activity?" I think she'll like it. Specified time with grade in college, and even when things didn't work romantically I made plenty of friends this way. Never underestimate the power of having female friends. They are the best wing woman a guy could have. Thumbs up. I am an underwater welder and was out with a few buddies after work. One of the guys told a girl he was a diver and she asked, "How deep have you gone?" Ask any diver, it's not about how deep you've gone but how long you can stay down. "How long can you stay down?" she asked. "Without missing a beat, how long can you keep your legs spread?" They left shortly thereafter. What's the harshest thing you've ever had to say to someone? Had to tell someone they were welcome in my home but only if they were not drinking. It's okay to let go. We will be okay after you're gone. Once had to tell an employee how bad they smelt and that they need to start bathing and washing their clothes. I'm sorry, but work is really busy and I just don't have time to talk right now. He killed himself the next day. It took me several years to calm down. I don't think I love you as much as you love me. I had to tell my ex that her dad had been engaging in voyeurism by hiding cameras in their bathroom. Will never forget her face turned from confusion to upset. 2. He was very open to me borrowing his hard drives for work. Picked up the one that contained unsolicited photos of hundreds of friends and strangers that went all the way back to 2011. Your victimization of yourself and unwillingness to learn is why mom resents you. Said in a slightly nicer way. What's the worst Christmas bonus you've ever received? I got a letter from corporate letting me know that they had made a donation in my name to a charity. Specifically, to themselves. I work for a non-profit, a large custom Hershey chocolate bar of the company logo. I worked at a company and the owner walked around during the Christmas party and gave people their paychecks in a fancy way. Clients would be thinking that the employees were getting bonuses. What's a Christmas bonus? Never gotten one. Last year our school gave teachers a plastic bag with a mini candy, a mini hand sanitizer and a single tea bag. Speechless face. A box full of candy and beef jerky. It also contained a book written by the CEO of the company about how to be better at your job. A ballpoint pen and cheap day planner with our corporate logo on it. Easy. Every year I received no Christmas bonus. I got fired. Which good celebrity do you find suspicious? Ryan Seacrest. He has a well in his basement and a yard full of buried bones. I can feel it. This will be only known to Minnesotans, but Chris Lindahl gives me the creeps. He's a real estate guy and he does way too much self-promotion. I'm sure Adam Levine sold his soul to the devil in exchange for a spot on the charts for every shitty song Maroon 5 makes. Especially in the 2010s. Jay Shetty. Look into that man's eyes and then tell me he isn't harboring the darkest of secrets. You don't win the Streamy for Best Podcast year after year without doing some nasty shit. Kathy Hilton. She seems to have a hold over those in Beverly Hills. Wikipedia proves that good win. I would say that it's less that good wins, and more that people's overwhelming need to protect their pet issues and wield power in their own petty online fiefdoms sometimes averages out to not always totally shitty. Good always is determined by the winners. Normal PPL. Discover how generally well things work in the FOSS community. Wikipedia is good for general stuff. If you want to look for anything remotely controversial, you won't see any factually correct information. People are absolutely making money on Wikipedia. People who believe that humans are inherently selfish or evil, who the ultimate group of nihilists, will disagree with you. They wish to believe there is nothing left to hope for, so they may act in the freedom of their depravity. Most people are good. The Wikipedia haters here are going off right now. Who knew? Wikipedia was created so people can say actually. And apparently, that's a good thing and everyone want that ability. Wives of Reddit. What is a sexual fantasy you could never tell to your husband? Every guy is lurking around here, waiting for that ray of hope. My husband is so sweet and gentle. I want some throwdown. I want him to sneak up behind me, restrain me, and then make my cum repeatedly for an hour straight. I played a game of poker with my girlfriend for this. The winner got their sex swish. I lost. My girlfriend first had me dance naked and then tied me down and did stuff. Go in the woods at night. Put on a mask and tell me to run. Then he'd hunt me down and fuck me against a tree or something. He's too sweet. He could never even pretend to do something like that. I love him so much. I'd like to have sex more than once or twice a year.